Peace. Islam. Sheekamauga Alamassee-El. Coming at y'all live. Deep down. Alamassee Arabian country. Live in Arabia. Coming at y'all from the holy old Moorish town of Meccan. If you don't know what Meccan is, or you don't know the science on Meccan, again, holler at me. I'll get you a map, put you back on your square, orientate your mind. That's how we do, real science. Tapping in live, doing a real quick drop. It's a lot of sucker nonsense going on these days. Again, we got a brigade in the horde of Roman-minded clowns that are not Mississippian. They don't have that holy, noble, royal Mississippian blood. But they really just be feeling like they can come here, run their mouths, and be doppelgangers and lay claims to, Moorish, real Mississippian Moslem Moorish culture. You know what I'm saying? And again, a lot of you clowns that like to come off these boats, running your mouths about how the so-called the Mississippians misnomered as Black Americans or African Americans have no culture. And, y'all want to run y'all mouths and come out here talking trash. You know what I mean? But it's funny because y'all didn't have all this, and then it's a huge narrative about how we don't work and how we have all these opportunities and everything, and we don't take advantage of them. And we're mad at y'all because y'all don't, because y'all work harder than us and y'all achieve more than us. And again, a lot of other people have, a lot of other Mississippians have already called y'all out on the nonsense. But I'm gonna go ahead and say it as well. If you come in here, and this is not to all my people, my Caribbeans and my Latino partners. I've had a lot of Caribbean and Latino homies growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of real ones out there. But this is for the clowns. This is for these foreign-backed clowns who want to run with this narrative, and they want to be the replacement to the real Mississippians, which you will never be. You know what I'm saying? Because you're just not. You're not on a level. You're not on a spiritual level. You're not on a level of high science or high culture to ever take our place. So you might as well just get that up right now. And you know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep humiliating you clowns with holy mandates. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, if you were such a hard worker and you so thorough and you so thugged out with it and you just are so great, why can't you take all that greatness and hard work ethic and intelligence and academic excellence and all that to your own country and build that up? Why you got to be running to my stuff? You know what I'm saying? Why you running in my turf, running your mouths? You know what I mean? And in this particular drop, we're gonna kind of touch on the narrative of hip hop, because that's been an ongoing narrative. And lately, again, so a lot of the real ones are gone. People have died, people have been transitioned. A lot of people have just gotten old and they've taken deals and everything, and they're not really down with speaking the truth. A lot of the real ones that was around in the early days in the 70s and 80s in the founding of so-called hip hop. Because let's get one thing together. Let's get one thing straight. So-called hip hop culture, that's thuggy culture. That's old American culture. It was just modernized and called hip hop. But the dress code, the science, the slang, the swag, and all of that the dancing, all of that of hip hop, that's old American Mississippian culture. The Mississippians have always been doing it. You can go back to we've always been doing them type of dances, what so-called break dancing and all that. That's old Mississippian dance style and routine. I mean, you can go back to the old Creek war dancing and everything from way back when. You can see paintings of our people getting bucked, juke dancing and doing all type of crazy dance moves. I mean, back in the 1800s, the old paintings they have of Mississippian people doing these dances and these routines and dressing, and they wore turbans, they wore nice colorful clothes, they wore chains, they wore the moon chains around their neck. I mean, again, this is the so-called street look, the so-called hip hop look, the do-rag look. That's old American culture. You know what I'm saying? We've been rocking like that. It just got modernized. It got modernized under a corporate term around the time of the late 70s. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing new under the sun, and that's Mississippian culture. But one thing about it though, to all of these clowns that really want to run up here over and over, especially lately, and a lot of these people have been in the culture and they were around up in so-called New York, because this is a American Moslem thing. It didn't just develop in New York. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're going to address in this drop. The so-called foundation of hip hop, it didn't just come from the Bronx in New York. that came from really the foundation of what would become hip hop, the style, the slang, everything about the swag and the frequency of hip hop. That really came from the interior of the country, the Mississippian Midwest and South. It had nothing, like it came together. It came together in New York and was able, and again, New York is home to a lot of corporate entities. So, and especially back then, a lot of money and kind of a corporate entertainment industry, a lot of funding, a lot of these things, where they were able to take it and capitalize off it and make it corporate and industrial. But the foundation of it it came from the interior of the country. It came from the Midwest, it came from the South. And that's what we're gonna break down in this drop. You know what I'm saying? So, again, you got a lot of clowns coming out here, and it's very disappointing because some of these people, even though they may have foreign blood, some of these people were around, and they know the truth, but they're being backed by a lot of foreign dollars and all this stuff because the name of the game is the genocide and the replacement of the original Mississippian people. So there's a foreign back campaign with foreign back money and everything where you got a lot of these people who come from immigrant backgrounds that are being paid to slander the Mississippian people and be doppelgangers and act like they did and act like they were the foundation of Mississippian culture. Because Mississippian culture is the foundation of international culture. It always has been. This is the Atlantean culture. And a lot of you clowns coming up here running your mouths and coming with this false narrative, you're just jealous. You know what I'm saying? Because where you come from, all you people come from talking this trash, you know what I'm saying? Y'all didn't have the juice to create this internationally renowned culture. You know what I'm saying? That everybody around the world follows and takes heed from. Why couldn't y'all do that where y'all are from? You know what I'm saying? I mean, recently, it's been so much disrespect from a lot of these people. And like I said, it's interesting because a lot of these people were around. Some of these people are elders, OGs in so-called hip hop, and they were around in the foundation times, and they know what's real. You know what I'm saying? But it's like now they want to clout chase, and they want to come with this false narrative because enough people are gone, enough of the elders are gone, or enough people just don't care anymore. So they want to come with this false narrative. You know what I'm saying? That like the foundation of this culture comes from like the Caribbean or Latin America or something like that. The foundation of hip hop culture comes from the Caribbean or Latin America or something like that. And they know that, and they know that's cap. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. You know what I'm saying? But again, we're gonna break it all the way down right now. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna show that hip hop culture it was developed strictly from American Moslem culture, from Mississippian American Moslem culture. Now, a lot of you clowns that are coming from, so again, no knock on our Caribbean homie, our Caribbean blooded people. A lot of y'all are real, but you got a certain class of people coming in here, coming with this fake narrative about a lot of things, but specifically pertaining to hip hop. That's what we're addressing in this drop. Coming with this fake narrative that the foundation of so-called hip hop culture comes from the Caribbean and Latin America. That couldn't be further from the truth. Because the thing about it is, again, hip hop culture was a development of Mississippian Moslem culture. A lot of y'all from the so-called Caribbean and Latin America, y'all are not Muslims. So guess what? If you don't come from a Caribbean island or a Latin country, and the foundation of that and the religion and the spiritual system of that country is not Muslim, guess what? In America, you have no claims. You know what I'm saying? You have no claims in America to hip hop or anything, because the foundation and the science and everything of hip hop was based on that developed the so-called hip hop culture comes from Islam. So the Caribbean people running their mouths about how the foundation of hip hop culture comes from the Caribbean and Latin America. Y'all are not Muslims, so y'all have no claims. And we finna break that down right now. You know what I'm saying? Now check it out. The truth is, okay, we're gonna show that the foundation of hip hop, it comes from most of the development of the industrial aspect of hip hop. It was turned into an actual industry and a commercial industry. And the problem with the culture that was able to be commercialized and trademarked by foreigners is because, again, the Mississippians have been denationalized. So if we were able to put attach a nationality to so-called hip hop, all this commercialization and industrialization and birthright stealing and stealing the money and stealing the trademarks, it wouldn't never been able to happen. But unfortunately, the Mississippians are denationalized. So everything that Mississippians create can be taken under trusteeship of foreigners through the United States. And it's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? One of these, you know, the Moors have been trying to tell hard-headed people for years to nationalize, you know, to understand your nationality and come together under your own vine and fig tree, but people are hard-headed, so they continue to get their cultures looted by foreigners, and it's going on to this day. And it's easy to do because, again, the Mississippian people are denationalized. But that may be the case, and hip-hop may have been taken trademark by foreigners, but these people may be able to commercialize and get money off it indefinitely, and that's fine. But one thing they're not going to be able to do, they're not going to have no claims in the development of hip-hop culture. You know what I'm saying? Because development of hip-hop culture is strictly Muslim. It's strictly Mississippian Muslim. Nobody else played a bigger role in development of, no other culture or entity played a bigger role in the development of so-called hip-hop than Mississippian Muslim culture. And we finna break that down right now. You know what I'm saying? And again, this is coming from a real hip-hop head. I grew up extreme hip-hop head. I grew up watching rap. A lot of y'all are not old enough to remember Rap City. I was watching Rap City back in 1993, 1992, 1994. You know what I'm saying? I would come home from school every day and just watch Rap City for hours. So I remember the golden age. You know what I'm saying? A lot of you youngsters, y'all don't know nothing about it. Y'all grew up in the commercial era where they stomped Islam out of hip-hop. And you saw what happened when they stomped Islam out of hip-hop. You know what I'm saying? It got all game, it got all goofy. You know what I'm saying? It got Roman, it got commercialized, and it got lame. And you can tell how lame it is now because a lot of y'all walking around with skinny jeans, with patches in your jeans, looking ridiculous, looking hella European. It wasn't like that back in the day. People dressed like Muslims in the street back in the day with baggy clothes, bandanas. That's the American Moslem way. You know what I'm saying? Do-rags. I mean, let's go back to the old Rough Rider videos and DMX and all. That's old Muslim dress code. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all dressing European, y'all youngsters dressing European looking like goofies. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy. The fact that you can want to walk around in some skinny jeans, wearing European brands and all that from LGBT Europeans. You know what I'm saying? On your clothes and you American. It just goes to show that they stomped Islam out of hip hop because that was not going down back in the day. It was very militant. The hip hop was very militant. It was very knowledge based. It was real. It was very empowering, and you can tell they got Islam out of hip hop because a lot of the youngsters got these names with these Lils this and Lil this, Lil that, and baby this and baby that. But back in the day, the cats had empowering names, God names. You know what I'm saying? Names like kings and stuff like that, because that was Islam. Y'all are Roman now. That's why y'all look retarded. Walking around some skinny jeans looking crazy. But anyway, so let's do the knowledge to the creation of hip hop. So, I mean, the impact that Islam had on hip hop, and why the only people that can claim the development of hip hop are American Muslims and American Muslim culture. You know what I'm saying? So, it's well documented and well known that in the early 70s, again, hip hop culture and rapping is an old American part of old American culture. Cats been rapping and making rhymes, I mean, since time immemorial. You know what I'm saying? Going all the way back to the Yamasee of South Carolina. We've been ciphering and rapping and doing rhymes and rhythms and all that. That's old American culture. Let's not get it messed up. Again, hip hop was the industrialization of that culture. You know what I'm saying? The industrialization and the corporate trademarking of that culture that's been in America. You know what I'm saying? It's been in the streets. It's been amongst the Moorish Mississippians of America. But check it out. So, it's well documented and well known. Well, let's go all the way back because we're gonna talk about how the Mississippian Moslem demonstration is what brought the science to the so-called New York at the time. The so-called hip hop was developed. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna show that the foundation of Islam came from the Mississippian, from the interior of the country, and they brought it to New York, and that was used, and that culture was what developed the current hip hop culture that we know now. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. We all know that Elijah Muhammad was Elijah Poole, before he was Elijah Muhammad, the great honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him, founder of the Nation of Islam. We all know that before he was Elijah Muhammad, he was Elijah Poole Bey, and he was under Noble Drew Ali in the Moorish Science Temple in Detroit. We all know that's well documented and well known. But when Noble Drew Ali died under mysterious circumstances, it may or may not have been the case that Elijah Muhammad, the honorable Elijah Muhammad, was approached, and he was allowed to rock, but he had to rock. He was allowed to continue to rock. He understood Moorish science. He understood us being the American Mississippian Muslim culture. He got that. But kind of under duress, because he was approached by certain entities after they got rid of Noble Drew Ali. under duress. They said, we'll let you rock. You just got to you have to bring Islam to your people under a foreign demonstration. You know what I'm saying? So he had to put everything, he had to take everything out of the Moorish Sufic, category. He had to kind of put it under the Sunni category. You know what I'm saying? He still gave us the science that he got from the Moorish Science Temple. You know what I'm saying? The science of knowledge itself, supreme mathematics, all the wisdom of us being from America, the real Islam. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that, all of the 120s and the Nation of Islam teachings, all of that comes from the Moorish Science Temple. And everybody know that. Everybody who's in the know knows that. But Elijah Muhammad, who was Elijah Poole Bey before he was Elijah Muhammad, he had to, he got approached by certain entities, government entities. And they said, look, we'll let you rock and we'll actually fund you. You know what I'm saying? And he said, we'll let you teach your people. You just can't teach them under the Moorish demonstration. You got to do it more under the Sunni demonstration, which is a foreign demonstration. You know what I'm saying? So he had to kind of reroute our people kind of to Saudi Arabia. And we're not knocking it at the time. He knew what he had, that he was under duress. The people were under duress and disarray. So he was like, I got it. I know he had a personal conversation with himself. Like, you know what? At least I can teach. At least I'll be able to give my people the science. I may not be able to direct them all the way, but I'm going to take this deal and give the people the science. And nobody's knocking him for that. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. When you're under duress like that, I mean, you can't really judge somebody, who had probably more than likely had really good intentions. So peace be upon the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then a note is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was born and spent a lot of his early years in Sandersville, Georgia. So he a Creek. You know what I'm saying? He a real Moorish Creek, a real Mississippian. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So okay. So now, he was able to establish himself, establish the Nation of Islam in Detroit. Then he moved it to Chicago. You can do the knowledge. We may do a drop later on and really go in depth about how the Nation of Islam came, the history of the Nation of Islam. But we know, just to keep it brief, he was able to take the Nation of Islam from Detroit to Chicago. Now again, we've already done the knowledge to how the seat of Morocco has always been in Chicago. The Sultan and everybody has always been there. That's always been our seat of government, Chicago, for the Moorish demonstration in America for a long time, prior to Europeans even knowing anything about so-called Chicago. You got old maps where it says Chilaga. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's been there. That's an old Muslim headquarters. You know what I'm saying? Chicago. So it makes sense that Elijah Muhammad, and even Noble Drew Ali had to set up the Moorish Science Temple and headquartered in Mecca, Chicago. Same with Elijah Muhammad. He had to set everything up in Chicago because that's always been the seat of the Muslim government. These people know what's up. You know what I'm saying? So now it's well known that Elijah Muhammad established his headquarters in Chicago in the 30s, early 40s. But he also, he expanded the Nation of Islam, and one of the places he expanded it to was New York, was Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So they started teaching Islam to New Yorkers, to people in Harlem and everything like that. Now, it's well documented. It's been well documented about Clarence 13X Allah. You know what I'm saying? How he, the founder of the Nation of Gods and Earths, and he split off from the Nation of Islam in 1964. And there's all type of speculation on why he did that. He didn't agree with everything the nation was doing, but all in all, it's understood that Clarence 13X Allah, he split off from the Nation of Islam because he really wanted to take the science out of the temple and teach it to the youth, teach it to the people in the streets directly. Because back in those days, they said that the Nation of Islam had a kind of a policy where you had to join the nation to get the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Clarence 13X was like, nah. You know what I'm saying? He's like, nah, this science needs to go to the streets. So that's exactly what he did. And it might have costed him his life, you know what I'm saying? But he did that. He set up the Nation of Gods and Earths to 5% in 1964. You know what I'm saying? So he was walking around. He said they said, if you do the knowledge, Clarence 13X said he had a hard time giving of course, as always, because the elders are always messed up in the head. But he said he had a hard time teaching the science to the elders, but the youth was taking it in. So he was out there in Harlem just going up and down the street, speaking to the youth, giving them the science, giving them the 120s, giving them the supreme mathematics, giving everything, and giving them the science of Islam, the real science of Amaru American Islam. You know what I'm saying? The high science that we've always had. You feel me? So he said, I mean, and it spread like wildfire all through the streets of New York, all in really the Upper East Coast. You know what I'm saying? So now, as the 5% teaching spread through New York, of course, a whole Islamic culture develops from that, all in New York. all in, you know, of course it was already in the Midwest, but all in New York, a whole Islamic type of street culture develops all in New York. You know what I'm saying? So along with that comes a whole swag, the street swag, the dropping the science, the ciphers and all of that. That's all Islam. You know what I'm saying? Like all the slang, that's all Islam. They ain't got nothing to do with none of these other foreigners in their culture. You know what I'm saying? The whole swag of hip hop, the baggy clothes, the cool dress style, all of the do-rags, all that stuff that made hip hop great, that's all Islam. That's why y'all have no claims. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. So Clarence 13X, Allah the Father, he creates he creates the nation of gods and earths, and it spreads like wildfire. It spreads like wildfire all through New York, the streets of New York, all through the rest of the 60s and the early 70s. Now it said that, again, we weren't there, but it said that Kool Herc, he's Jamaican, but Kool Herc is a real one, because he's always giving props to the Americans who are really developing hip hop, and how he was just a part of development, and props to him. You know what I'm saying? Peace be upon him. But Kool Herc, the so-called man they credit with creating hip hop, you know what I'm saying, which is cap. You know what I mean? Because of course they want to give somebody who's of a foreign demonstration credit for everything, because the thing is birthright there for the Mississippians. You know what I'm saying? That's always the play. But Kool Herc is said to have said at all his parties in the early 70s, 73, 72, 74, that the 5%ers was always heavy in his parties. You know what I'm saying? That they were holding down, they were doing security. The 5%ers were deep in all of his parties. You know what I mean? So check it out. So now, it was said that. So a lot of the slang in early hip hop, right, come from the 5%ers. So let's check it out. Let's check out some of the slang that we know about hip hop. Word is born. That come from the 5%ers, right? And they're doing the cipher. All of y'all who grew up in the 90s and everything, we would do freestyle battles with each other. We would always say we ciphering. That come from the 5%, and the 5% come from the NOI. The NOI comes from the Moorish Science Temple. The Moorish Science Temple is American Islam. You know what I'm saying? The old culture. So check it out. Break it down. That comes from the 5%ers. Break it down. We've been saying that for years. Break it down. Break it down, G. Break it down. That's old school slang. Peace, of course. Everybody in the streets has said peace for the longest. If you grew up in the 90s, the 80s, the early 2000s, we'd always say peace to each other. Peace, y'all, peace. You know what I'm saying? That was a greeting. I even say it in my drops now. That's always been a part of the culture. You know what I'm saying? But the 5%ers, again, who come from the NOI, who come from the Moorish Science Temple, they were the ones who kind of, up in New York, and as far as hip hop and the influence of hip hop, they kind of made that term popular. The 5%ers, you know what I'm saying, the gods and earth. Represent. That's a 5%er term. Dropping science. That's a 5%er term. You know what I'm saying? What else? Keep it real. Now, any of y'all know keep it real. Come on now. That's not so big no more, but keep it real. That come from the 5%ers popularized that term. You know what I mean? What else? What else we got? Yeah. Okay, so that being the case, so we know that the 5%ers, and then one of the biggest things that the 5%ers developed, which is Islamic, was the b-boy stance. You know what I'm saying? The b-boy stance was an integral part of early hip hop. You know what I'm saying? From you had cats like Kool Moe Dee, Africa Bambaataa, all these people in the early 80s and all that getting in the b-boy stance. And then the b-boy stance goes into breakdancing and all that. That came from the 5%, because that came from them bombing sessions and them cipher sessions they used to do in the parks up in New York. You know what I'm saying? So so the b-boy stance, which is pretty much the foundation of the movements of hip hop, the b-boy stance come from the 5%. So all these clowns coming up here, these foreigners coming up here running their mouths talking about they help create hip hop, and hip hop come from Jamaica, hip hop come from Puerto Rico, hip hop come from all these places. Man, again, props to all the real Caribbeans, but Jamaica is not Muslim. Puerto Rico is not Muslim. You know what I'm saying? None of these islands are Muslim. And if you're not Muslim, you have no claims in hip hop. You have no claims in the development of hip hop. If you are not Muslim, if you don't say all peace be to Allah, if you don't praise Allah, you have no props in the development of hip hop. Just shut your mouth and kill yourself. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. It said that. Now, it is also said that Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash, and we know that these two people were instrumental in the commercialization. The early commercialization had huge records that helped to push hip hop to the rest of the country. They said they studied under the 5%. Africa Bambaataa studied the lessons. He made it the foundation of the Zulu Nation. And we all know Planet Rock. You know what I'm saying? Fab Five Freddy. We all know he was a huge purveyor of the early culture of hip hop. He was a huge spokesman. He was big in the culture. He was a 5%er. Fab Five Freddy. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's really get into the game. Now, all through the mid '80s. Now, okay, we'll even go to the early '80s. So, like in the early days of the commercialization, the early songs in hip hop. Okay, let's even go back to the Sugar Hill Gang. They had a song called Apache. You know what I'm saying? That was a huge song in the early '80s. Now, the Apache is American Moslem culture. So they had a song called Apache. That tells you right there. Now, the world famous Supreme Team, and I know a lot of y'all who grew up in the '80s had parents that played that song. Hey DJ, just play that song, keep me dancing. The world famous Supreme Team talked about the gods and earths back in that song. You know what I'm saying? That's 1984. You feel me? And Buffalo Gals go around the outside. That was the world famous Supreme Team. They was 5%ers. They was Muslims. You know what I'm saying? So Islam has been in the music since the early '80s. You feel me? Grandmaster Flash, all of them, Grandmaster Flash and the Message, the Furious Five, all of them studied under the 5%. So all of them were technically Muslims. You know what I'm saying? So again, if you're not a Muslim, you have no claims. So let's keep going. Now, one of the biggest developments of hip hop, modern hip hop, came around the time of, and then another thing, Houdini. We know Houdini was huge in the early '80s, in the mid '80s in hip hop. We know one of the main cats in Houdini was Jalil. Jalil was a Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Again, the whole swag, the demonstration, the dancing, the slang, the knowledge, the rebellious spirit, all of it is Mississippian American Moslem culture. That's hip hop, niggas. You know what I'm saying? You clowns trying to take credit, you foreign clowns trying to take credit to hip hop and the development. You're not Muslims. You have no claims. So let's keep going. Now, one of the biggest developments in the mid '80s in hip hop was the master of the flow. Because, you know, in the early '80s, most of the rappers was, rapping like that. It was Rakim Allah. Came in 1986 and he came with the flow. He mastered the flow. You know what I'm saying? And he was a heavy 5%er. So if you listen to old Rakim was the God MC. I mean, he one of the greatest. I mean, you really can't even knock it. But Rakim Allah, that was his name. He came in 1986 and he came with the slow down flow. Like a good 95% of the rappers copied Rakim's style after he came out in 1986, 1985, 1986 with the flow. Brother was a 5%er. You know what I'm saying? So he brought that science, that knowledge, that wisdom to the flow. So I'm saying, now name one non-Muslim that came and put down the flow before Rakim Allah did. You can't name it. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop is Muslim, niggas. You know what I'm saying? Now let's check it. Let's just keep going. Let's keep going. Now we're gonna really talk about. I'm gonna give a list of all of the real, a lot of famous hip hoppers that were either 5%ers, Muslims, or influenced by Islam. And a lot of the again, Islam was pretty much the religion and the spiritual system of hip hop, all the way from the beginning, all the way up to about 1995, 1996. You know what I'm saying? And if you were around back then, you remember all the videos, you remember everything. All of y'all can vouch for this. You know what I'm saying? There was no real Christianity and all of that. And all that type of stuff in hip hop until like 1996, 1997. And we're gonna do the science on that in a minute. But I'm gonna run down a list of a lot of just famous rappers from the so-called golden era, and even after that, there was Muslims and 5%ers. So we just gonna read down the list because again, we are tying the creation of hip hop to Mississippian Muslim culture, and we getting all these clowns out the paint again. If you are foreign, if you are from the Caribbean or you're from Latin America and you are not a Muslim, you have no claims. Hip hop is a Muslim demonstration. It is a Muslim culture. 100%. You know what I'm saying? So y'all have no claims. You feel me? So check it out. Let's just go through some of the famous rappers who was either Muslims or 5%ers. You know what I'm saying? Same thing, one and the same. Big Daddy Kane. Come on now. Big Daddy Kane. Black Thought from the Roots, all Muslim. Black Moon, I know y'all remember Black Moon and Buckshot Shorty, all Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Brand Nubian, all Muslims. You know, Lord Jamar, peace to him. all Muslims. Even though Lord Jamar, he may be Ghanaian or something like that, but he's still a Muslim. So he's still down with the culture. Chi Ali, Muslim. Jeru the Damager, Muslim. Diggable Planets, I'm cool like that. You know the brother said, me, I got crew kids, 7 in the Crescent. I'm cool like that. Diggable Planets, all Muslims. Ladybug Mecca, all Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Rakim Allah, Muslim. Gangstar, Muslim. Public Enemy, Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Professor Griff, Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Mobb Deep, Muslims. Ice Cube back in the day, Muslim, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Wu-Tang Clan, Muslims. Scarface from the South, Muslims. Pete Rock and CL Smooth, Muslims. LL Cool J, old 5%er, Muslim. You know what I'm saying? World famous Supreme Team, we already talked about them. Cool G Rap, Muslim. You know, Nas, Muslim. Tribe Called Quest, Muslims. Even if you go to the Midwest, like in Chicago, the first rappers that really come out of Chicago heavy, Do or Die, Crucial Conflict and all them cats, Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Even in the South, in the mid-90s, Outkast, Goody Mob and all them, they was influenced by the Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, Muslims. So we just confirming everything, and I can keep going. I mean, we got Tupac, Muslim. They said it was already known that Tupac read the Quran all the time. He knew he was a Moor, especially right before he passed away. Tupac, Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Again, man. So, and again, we can keep going. We literally can keep going. The majority of the rappers follow Islam. All the way up until about 1995, 1996. Islam was the culture and the foundation of hip hop, and it was well known. Everybody used to mention Allah in their rhymes. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody. 80%, 85% of the rappers mentioned Allah somewhere in their rhymes. All the way up until 95, 96. Coincidence? I think not. Now, let's talk about what happened around the early 90s. Let's talk about the insurgency and the plot to erase Islam out of hip hop around the time of the early 90s. And even with the West Coast, even though we already know they wanted to gangsterify hip hop and all that, but even with the West Coast gangster rap and all of that, all the way up until about 1995, 1996, they might not have shouted out Islam and all that much, but the spirit of their raps, the DJ Quicks, you know what I'm saying, even, you know what I mean, like the Above the Law, the Eazy-E's, all these people, they had that Muslim spirit in their music because it was gangster. You know what I'm saying? That's American culture. Even Dr. Dre, you had to give him props. He said a lot of the fake blacks got mad at Dr. Dre for saying no medallions, dreadlocks, or black fists. It's just that gangster glare, the gangster raps, the gangster shit makes a gangster snaps. I might have fucked that up, but a lot of people got on him about that, but he was really just giving props to keeping it American. You know what I'm saying? He's saying we don't do all that African medallion and all that. I get that. You know what I'm saying? Props to him. But the spirit of the early 90s, even the gangster rap of the West Coast, Ice Cube, he was a verified Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Even the spirit of that was Islam. You know what I'm saying? Because it was just aggressive. It was gangster. You know what I'm saying? But let's talk about what happened around 1995, 1996. We already know the big funny style cat who came on the scene about 95. And I hate to say Biggie, you know what I'm saying? Like, and props to Biggie, because Biggie one of my favorite rappers, but we all know that was the subversion. And what's Biggie's nationality? And again, no knock to my Caribbean homies. I got plenty of Caribbean homies, but what's Biggie's nationality? You know what I'm saying? Now, Biggie and his folks was used. Biggie and everything that came after him in New York. This was a concerted, well-funded effort to get Islam out of hip-hop. Because all Biggie, the main thing, because Biggie, that wasn't even his heart. He really wanted to become gangster and Muslim just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Because he was from Brooklyn. He was influenced by the same stuff everybody else was. But the funny style, weird Roman dude, and we all know who we talking about. You know what I'm saying? He the one who wanted to commercialize Biggie, and he had orders. Let's just keep it a buck. So the main play with the commercialization of hip-hop, you know what I'm saying? And everybody praising money and Roman materialism all through the mid 90s and especially after Tupac was gone. It was a well-funded insurgency against Islam and hip hop because they needed Islam out of there. Because they needed, you know what I'm saying? They needed us to go back to Roman worship and Roman commercialization and worshiping Western material industrialization and those type of Western values. Because hip hop was actually all for 20 years, for damn near 20 years, hip-hop was totally against that. It was getting us back to the roots. It was getting us back to non-materialism, living on the land and being humble and valuing, just valuing knowledge and all of that. That was Islam. So, again, look what they did. Look who set up Tupac in the beginning. Look how big he came. Look at these people. Look at a lot of the rappers who came in the late 90s. Jay-Z, what's his nationality? You know what I'm saying? These people were used. You know what I'm saying? They were good punks, and they were good punks who would do whatever they told. Because again, these people come from a culture where you bow down to kings. You know what I'm saying? Islam is not that culture. You know what I'm saying? So that's why early hip hop ain't bow down to no king. You feel me? It was Islam. Now in the late 90s, all these other clowns came up. These commercialized clowns came out. You know what I'm saying? And hip hop been downhill ever since. So there was a concerted effort, and to this day, Islam is out of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And it has been watered down and trashed and commercialized. Coincidence? I think not. And a lot of people gonna have to answer for that. And again, unfortunately, the Mississippians had no nationality intact around the time of the creation of hip hop. So nobody is arguing about the trademark of hip hop and how these foreigners are going to be able to make money off of this shit indefinitely. Nobody's arguing about that. But what we are going to lay claim to is that hip hop developed from American, Mississippian, Moslem culture. Noble Drew Ali to Elijah Poole Bey to the NOI to Malcolm X to Clarence 13X Allah to the spread of Islam through New York, through the streets of New York. You know what I'm saying? All of the swag of hip hop, the b-boy stance, the chains, the gangster, the loose clothes, the whole swag is all Islam. That's American Islam. It does not come from no Jamaica. It does not come from no Puerto Rico. So I normally don't mention names, but there's a couple of cats that I'm gonna go ahead and call their names out and put them right back in their place. Fat Joe. I'm saying, you've been going around on the G, and you should know better because you come from the Bronx, you come from the creation, you grew up around these cats. You should know better than to try to claim, again, peace to all the Boricuas. There's a lot of Boricua Moors out here. But you should know better than to try to be sitting up here laying claim to the development of hip hop when it was all Muslim. You know for a fact that you do not come from a Muslim country. Your heritage is not Muslim. You know what I'm saying? You know damn well. And hip hop was developed by the Muslims. So you need to chill with all that fake narrative talking about some y'all had a lot to do with the creation of hip hop. Hip hop was Islam. You know what I'm saying? You are not a Muslim. So you have no rights to no claims to the development. Busta Rhymes, one of my favorite rappers. You know what I'm saying? But he should know better. He comes out here talking about there's no culture in America in hip hop, and the culture of hip hop comes from the Latin America and the Caribbean. Now, Busta Rhymes, you should know better, brother. You actually a 5% of yourself. Now you tell me now your nationality is Jamaican. Are there any 5%ers in God's and earths? Did Jamaica create the 5%ers in God's and earths? But you a God in the earth. You know what I'm saying? You studied under the 5% and you a Muslim. Bruh, you got educated by the Americans, and that's where you got your whole swag and your ability to do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Because you a Muslim now. That's Muslim is American. It's not from it's not from your nationality. So cut the crap. Y'all have no claims. You know what I'm saying? If you're not a Muslim, or if you're gonna claim your nationality, and you're gonna talk about Islam, if you're gonna claim your nationality, and you're gonna talk about Islam, you're gonna talk about where you come from, created hip hop, and y'all have all the culture. You know what I'm saying? If your culture, where you come from, is not Muslim, you have no claims to nothing in America. Let's just get that out the paint. You know what I'm saying? And then another clown who running his mouth about who got the nerve to get up here and run his mouth about the Americans, Akon. You know what I'm saying? Bruh, and again, I don't even address you Hollywood clowns that much. Because y'all, we in the land, we in the mud. So, but it's just like, we just got to get this out there. Bruh, hey, Akon, bruh, you want to talk stuff about the so-called fake African Americans, but it's really the Mississippians and our music? Bruh, come on, man. Again, if you're not a Muslim, you can't run your mouth. Akon, you are a Muslim. You are not a Muslim. There's a difference, bruh. So you definitely need to just shut your mouth, bruh. You have no claims, homie. You know what I'm saying? Don't even open your mouth talking about to talk down on the so-called African American music, because bruh, you got everything you know from the Mississippians, hot partner. But you're not a Muslim either. You a Muslim. There's a difference. You know what I'm saying? So, man, just setting the record straight, and then, again, you got a lot of clowns online just running their mouths talking about the Americans, or the so-called black Americans, who are the Mississippians, who are misnomer as black or African Americans, have no cultures. Like them two Haitian, and props to Haiti, you know what I'm saying? Props to the real Haitian family, the real French Huguenot family. But you got these two chicks that's going around right now, a video of these two chicks running around here talking down on so-called African Americans, which is, again, this is the Mississippians for real, talking about we have no culture and we have nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like how much better y'all are than us, and how much better the islanders are than the so-called African Americans, and we have no culture and we have nothing. I'm gonna set the record straight for all you clowns running your mouths online about the Mississippian people. Our culture is Moorish. Our culture is Islam. You know what I'm saying? Your culture is New Testament Christianity and all of that stuff. That's not indigenous to America. We are the Moslems. Even if you got brain dead Mississippians that don't know it, we are the Moslems. That is our culture. So going forward, our you talked about America. The supreme culture of America is Islamism. It's Muslim culture. So the next clown that gets online, if you're a real Mississippian and you're an ally, the next clown that gets online, y'all flood the comment section, catch them in the streets, whatever, and just educate them clowns and let them know we Muslims. That's the culture of America. You know what I'm saying? we ain't nothing like y'all, and y'all ain't nothing like us, because y'all are clowns. Y'all bow down to kings and God. Y'all bow down to kings and popes and all that stuff. America's in God we trust, and Allah we trust. We the real ones. We the real ones. If y'all was so great, y'all wouldn't have to come up here running your mouths about the real ones. So again, the supreme law of America is Islam. Even Obama said that. Even the Constitution, all the foundation of the government, everything comes from Muslim law, because this has always been Morocco. So our culture is Moroccan. So shut your mouths. You have no rights. If you're not a Muslim, you can't lay claim to anything in America, because it's all Muslim. It's Islam, or it's Yahudi. None of y'all have that culture, so you need to shut your mouths. So peace. This Sheekamauga Alamassee-El tapping in live from Arabia. I'll tap back in with y'all later. Peace.